History is written by the victors, but sometimes, it's rewritten by the powerful. Behind national anthems, parades, and polished memorials, there are stories buried deep, stories of villages burned, prisoners tortured, civilians erased, not because they didn't happen, but because admitting them would damage a nation's image. Tonight, we uncover war crimes that were hidden, denied, minimized, or deliberately erased from textbooks, because sometimes the greatest lie isn't what happened in war, it's what we're told afterward. In 1968, during the Vietnam War, American soldiers entered the village of My Lai. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a massacre. Hundreds of unarmed civilians, women, children, elderly, were killed. At first, the incident was reported as a successful military operation. Only one soldier, Hugh Thompson Jr., intervened, placing his helicopter between troops and civilians to stop the killing. The truth was almost buried. It took whistleblowers and investigative journalism before the world learned the name, My Lai, and even then, only one officer, William Calley, was convicted. He served just 3 years under house arrest. For decades, the full horror remained sanitized in public memory. During the Second Boer War, the British Empire created concentration camps in South Africa. Tens of thousands of Boer women and children died from disease and starvation. But for years, British narratives framed it as protective relocation. In schoolbooks, it became a footnote. The empire that prided itself on civilization had quietly rewritten its brutality as necessity, and it worked, for decades. Few outside historians questioned it. During the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Imperial Japanese Army operated a secret biological warfare unit, Unit 731, human experimentation, vivisections, biological weapons testing. Thousands of Chinese civilians and prisoners were subjected to unimaginable cruelty. After World War II, many of those responsible were granted immunity in exchange for their research data. For years in Japan, textbooks barely mentioned it, some denied it entirely. A nation rebuilding its identity chose silence over accountability. In 1915, during World War I, the Ottoman Empire carried out mass deportations and killings of Armenians. Historians estimate up to 1.5 million deaths. Today, many countries recognize it as the Armenian genocide, but for decades, and even today in some places, it has been officially denied. The argument that acknowledging it would damage national identity. But the dead do not disappear because paperwork says they should. During the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, British forces detained and tortured thousands. For decades, the abuse was denied. Files mysteriously disappeared. Only in 2011 did hidden archives surface, revealing systematic violence and cover-ups. The British government later settled claims, but the narrative had already been shaped for generations. Sometimes the cover-up is more shocking than the crime. Governments classify documents for national security. They seal archives for 50, 75, even 100 years. By the time truth emerges, witnesses are gone, public outrage fades, and the story becomes academic instead of urgent. Erasure doesn't require burning evidence, just time. Why erase war crimes? Because nations are brands. They rely on pride, unity, legitimacy. Admitting atrocities can destabilize governments, damage alliances, and demand reparations. So leaders frame crimes as tragic mistakes, necessary security measures, propaganda from enemies. Language becomes a shield, and memory becomes selective. Truth rarely survives without courage. Journalists, soldiers, survivors. They risk careers, freedom, even their lives. Without them, My Lai stays hidden. Unit 731 fades into myth. Colonial abuse remains rumor. History doesn't correct itself, people correct it. When crimes are erased, something dangerous happens. The next generation doesn't learn, and when history is incomplete, patterns repeat. Accountability isn't about humiliation, it's about prevention. Countries that confront their past grow stronger, those that bury it risk repeating it. Because truth doesn't weaken a nation, denial does. You can censor textbooks, you can seal archives, you can deny, delay, and deflect. But mass graves don't vanish, witnesses don't forget, and eventually, history demands to be heard, because protecting a nation's image should never come at the cost of truth. The real strength of a country isn't perfection, it's accountability.